Well, welcome everyone to Healthcare Leadership Live. I'm your host, Mike Lyons, a HR services provider focused on healthcare, and I'm thrilled that you're joining us here today, whether you are listening to the podcast recording or joining us live here on LinkedIn or YouTube. You're in the right place if you're a healthcare leader looking for tips to grow your career and make your practice better. When I think about leadership, I can hardly think of a better person to have on the show than Mr. Ben Seals. Ben is the CEO of Thomas Eye Group, a multi-specialty, many-location practice in the Atlanta, Georgia area. They focus on ophthalmology, and they've got your retina, your optometry, your oculoplastics. Just kind of looking at your website here, it looks like y'all kind of do everything there.
Today, tomorrow, and forever. That's our goal.
I love that. I love that. Building something for generations to come is something that I like to talk about too. Just makes it more fun when you build something that way. And you've been at the helm there for about 8 years. And first of all, thanks for being here on the show, because you do bring so much experience. And even before you got into this role, you had quite a career in healthcare.
Mike, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an exciting career, and we've been able to do a lot here at Thomas Eye Group. The team, the doctors, the leadership that I get to work with each and every day, they're phenomenal. So happy to share any wisdom that I have gained. I like to tell my kids, my encouragement is to not repeat the mistakes that I have made. And so I will share those freely, and hopefully that will help someone as they're navigating their own career.
Yeah. Well, maybe let's kind of jump into that. You're at a great spot there, and you've got a great reputation in the ophthalmology leadership community. And so looking back on your path, what do you think were some of the keys to helping you get to the point where you are right now of leading such a large specialty practice in a major metro area?
Yeah. I think the key that I have always had, that was instilled in me early on by my parents, and then also early on in my career, is that you're always learning, and we're always adapting to the environment around us. And there's so many great resources that talk about this. One of the things that I am known for, and that I encourage people to do, is continue to invest in yourself, whether that's through formal education, schooling, graduate degrees, postgraduate degrees, whatever that looks like, or just books. And I was not the most studious individual as a young man. That came later in life. But ultimately, I've really benefited from some leaders in my past that have put great content in my hands and given me the opportunity to invest in myself. And so Thomas Eye Group, when I first joined, was 7 locations and 26 doctors. We're now 20 locations and almost 60 doctors. It takes a different kind of leader to lead that organization. And if I'm not investing in myself, so to your community, if you're not investing in your own career and development, what got you here won't get you there. And that's a great book. It's worth the read. But ultimately, if you think that you can be stagnant in your career, the organization that you're a part of risks growing stagnant as well.
It sounds like you've had some mentors in your career, or people that have imparted wisdom along the way. Has there been maybe a nugget or two that stands out to you that they've imparted to send you on your way?
Yeah, I whether it's mentors or books or leadership parables, there's quite a few authors that I read and go back to and read a lot. There's been some significant leaders in my past. I think the first one who gave me an undeserved shot straight out of college was Vanya Franks. And as we got to know each other over the years, I don't think that I was her first pick. But eventually she was stuck with me, and she poured into me regardless, and has been a huge catalyst and a huge mentor throughout my career. Vanya is an HR professional and was part of the organization that I started with immediately out of college. And just her passion for development in people was infectious, and is where I learned that people have this innate ability that it's our job as leaders to cultivate in them. And if we're not doing that, they risk not achieving that. And so, or not even seeing that. So sometimes as leaders, we have to see the full potential in somebody before they can actually see it in themselves. And that's probably my favorite part about being a leader is I get to sit in an organization where we have some phenomenal talent. And one of my favorite conversations to have is with managers and leaders in the organization about who they're training and developing and who will be the next leader in their seat or in the seat that they're in today to help grow and develop the organization. So leading leaders is something I'm really passionate about. Vanya's one. Steve Miracle is another one. He had a completely different leadership style. And Steve is a good old boy from Tennessee. And he was one of those ones that was like, give you all the rope that you need. And you're either going to like hang yourself with it or you're going to do an excellent job. And he's going to like put some bumpers up and guardrails up along the way. But he's going to give you a lot of latitude and a lot of leeway to succeed if you have that drive. And so I appreciate the risks that he took on me early on in my career that gave me the opportunity to do some pretty amazing things. And the last one is probably Craig Stevens. He was the CEO of an organization that I joined about 15 years ago. And Craig really embodied for me what servant leadership looks like. He was a phenomenal CEO. He did a great job leading the organization that we were a part of, and is still somebody that I revere to this day, is setting a tone for leading an organization through change, through industry changes, but then also just with heart and with compassion. And every end of month in that business was a busy time of the month in our warehouse, and every end of month, Craig would be out in the warehouse packing boxes with our shipping team to get orders out the door. And here I see the CEO of the company walking around in 100-degree heat in Atlanta in a warehouse that's not air conditioned, picking and packing boxes to make sure that orders got out on time so that we could take care of patients and close out the month strong.
Man, I mean, those are three awesome examples right there. And I mean, that's probably a masterclass right there. We could probably spend 2 hours just digging into lessons there. What was kind of going through my mind is it's probably a great goal, and I'm guessing you've probably achieved this many times over, but to have somebody be able to say, you know what, Ben Seals did this for me, and I'm here because of Ben, or Mike helped me get there. And, that's probably a goal to keep in mind for all of us.
Yeah. And that's one of those, sometimes I don't even know if those three individuals will hear me say that on this call, but sometimes you don't get to hear it, you just see it. And so you see people grow, you watch them embody their potential, and sometimes they recognize your hand in it. Sometimes it's behind the scenes in coaching and development, especially in my role, where it's support from behind the scenes and making sure that we set people up for success and put them in the right positions. And sometimes individual that makes people uncomfortable because you're asking them to try something new. But if they learn to trust you as a leader, they also learn that you're going to have their career in mind, their success in mind, and that you're going to work with them to call out those potential areas of risk that they get the opportunity to turn into reward.
So one thing I want to say here for the folks that are watching live is if you have a question or a comment for Ben, you can drop that into the comment section of LinkedIn and we'll see that. And we would love to speak to that. And this is your golden opportunity here to learn from Ben or pick his brain. I'm going to do my best to get some great tidbits of knowledge from him. But if you have a question, we'd love to have it into the chat here. But, we were talking about growth there, and, maybe what is a thing that you try to do for your leadership team or your staff that you think helps to move them forward and challenge them and get them into that next level?
Yeah. I think because of the way that I'm wired, I always am in the middle of at least a dozen books, somewhere in the middle of reading something, and I look at the volume of information that we have available today, and the reality is that no one person can really know everything about everything, and so I have my niche that I focus on, and that's leadership, data, technology, innovation. And so as I read those things, I try to sift through what's valuable and send what I think is valuable and pertinent to my team members. And sometimes it looks like a random article that I send out to my leadership team on a Saturday morning because I'm sitting on my back porch enjoying a cup of coffee, reading something that I thought was interesting. Sometimes it's specifically to one specific person because I see something in that article that relates to them. I try to share that knowledge, but I kind of look at the volume of information kind of like a Cheesecake Factory menu. Like, it's too many options, too many things to pick from. And so my hope is that if I can filter through as much of that as possible, I can deliver some valuable nuggets and feedback to my team that can help them grow and develop. One of the things that we do internally at Thomas Ag Group is we actually encourage that growth and development. So our leadership team, my leadership team, is actually reading through a book. Right now, we do different book studies throughout the course of time. We've typically done one a year. I've heard of organizations that do like one a quarter. I think that pace is a little, maybe that's an aspirational pace for us, but I also know we've got a ton going on inside of our organization. So one book a year. And as we do that, I try to help them understand and carve out time during the workday to do that self-development, because I want them to understand that it's an investment by the organization in them. And so we're willing to pay. I'm not asking for their family time. I'm not asking for their personal time. I want them to understand this is part of their job as leaders, is to grow and develop.
Yeah. One thing that I think it probably sends the message, right, when you send something to someone or even to your team, right, it shows that, hey, I'm investing in my career by reading and learning new information, but I care about you and I want you to grow too, right? So it sends a really great example to other folks that, hey, I want to invest in you. I'm over here drinking my coffee on Saturday morning and I'm thinking about you and how we can be better. Like, that has to send a great message.
Yeah.
And so that sets a wonderful example for folks. And it seems to me that you're a person who really enjoys connecting with other folks. I see you on LinkedIn and you're spending time with others in your industry. Can you talk about the importance of growing your network and how? Because for a lot of people, they don't even understand what networking is. They think it's being schmoozy and, hey, here's my business card, right? But I'm sure that you're operating at a deeper level. So can you kind of talk about how to build your network and what that means to you?
I think for me, I got the opportunity when I joined Thomas Ag Group. I think it was Thomas More who said, we see further because we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. And so my hope is that as I look around our industry, so ophthalmology specifically, there are a half dozen people that when I went to my first ophthalmology conference, I saw them on stage. I saw their wisdom. I saw their understanding of this business. And I knew that I needed to learn from them. And I knew that I needed to sit with them, buy them a cup of coffee, just hear their story, give them the opportunity to tell me how they lead their organization, how they work with their physicians. Stephanie Collins is one of those people. Like, I look at her, and she's a rock star in the retina community and just in retina operations, in clinic knowledge and clinic awareness, but also how she leads that organization. And anytime I'm in the same town as her, I want to buy her a drink, or I want to buy her a cup of coffee, or maybe both. And maybe it's a drink with coffee in it. And I just want to hear, what are you working on? What are you doing? What's important to you? What are your goals? What have you set for your team? how are you dealing with whatever it is? If it's consumer sentiment issues, if it's good days problems, if it's macroeconomic situations that are impacting your particular part of the business, it gives you, for me, it gives me a frame of reference for, hey, I know somebody who went through that problem. I wonder if I can text them and see, remind me again how you did it. Remind me again what you did. What did you activate on your team? Who did you talk to? What are the resources? I can remember earlier this year, Stephanie and I were at a conference, and Thomas Eye Group has 3 retina providers, and we want to continue to see that part of our business grow. And so we're nowhere near what Austin Retina is, but Stephanie has all of those contacts and all of those resources in the industry. And so I just spent an afternoon walking around the show floor with her, meeting the same people that she was meeting with, listening to the same people that she was talking to. I felt like I probably should have just been there holding her purse and making sure she had coffee, because I was just soaking it up and really finding those people that you can spend time with that will allow you into their organization, into their circle, into their thought process, can help yours evolve, and you start to connect dots around the value that different people can bring.
Well, everything you're saying resonates with me, and Stephanie, and just to speak to her for a second, she was a great model for that, of teaching and
Yeah.
making sure that you give back to your community, right? And so, regardless of the role that you're in, you can give back, at your practice level, by mentoring. You can give back at the national level by speaking, and she and you and others are wonderful examples of people who put the time in and invest their practice dollars into sharing what they've learned. And so, that's how and what I've figured out, and maybe you figured this out too, is that when you teach back, it kind of, you grow and you help others grow. I mean, have you found that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the willingness of our peers to pour back into the ophthalmic community makes the community better. The collaboration, the insight, we all bring different perspectives and different backgrounds and history and expertise and knowledge. And whether it's, you're an operator in a large private equity organization, or you're an administrator in a smaller practice. I think of my friend Gretchen Kimball, who, when I grow up, I want to be like her. She has 2 cataract surgeons in her practice, and she does more surgery more efficiently than I do in mine. Like, her practice is just geared and driven for efficiency, outcomes, quality patient care. She's a phenomenal leader in her organization. And every time I sit down with her, there's something that I learn from her, because of the way that she leads her team, the way that her doctors run their ORs. There's something to be learned from every practice, every size, every scale. We all do things. We all have our niche. We all have something that we do really, really well. And there's things to be learned from everybody in this community.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about healthcare, and what has kept me involved is the collegiality and the spirit and willingness to share, because we're all here to take care of patients at the end of the day, and we can grow ourselves and our team and take care of patients. I mean, what an amazing thing that we can do there. I want to kind of shift gears just a little bit. We're talking about leadership a little bit, and you come from a large practice, but I interact with a lot of practice leaders who don't, right? Might be just one practice administrator, maybe a supervisor, and as they grow, they're probably beyond the point, some of them, where, man, I need some help. I need another manager here. What would you say is a key to identify when is the right time to hire an additional manager into a clinical practice?
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of benchmarks around size, scale, people ratios. Ultimately, I think in healthcare, there's always a trepidation and a concern from the physician owners or the leaders of that practice of when's the, like, why do you need a supervisor in that facility? And I think there's some really good general rules of thumb around scalability and people operations. We talk about each leader should have 10 direct reports. And as you get to that 10 direct reports, you really start to lose your ability to keep close tabs on and supervise and lead and develop those individuals. That's sort of the HR rule that our team internally uses. I think there's also, whether it's systems like Scaling Up or EOS, there's some really good tools out there that as business leaders, we need to look at and try to help prioritize the work that we're doing, understand how much work we can do along with the day-to-day operations. There's only so many projects that you can run at a single time and expect success. Unfortunately, in medical practices, that's often hyper inflated because of the doctors who they come in and they're like, oh, I went to this trade show and I got this great idea. And then you have another doctor who comes in from the same trade show and has a different great idea. Mm-hmm. And now you've got these competing ideas of what need to be done, and you have to start to prioritize and set the value and run pro formas and really understand the financial consequence, both on the cost and opportunity side, to make sure that you're directing your resources in the most appropriate way. But a couple of things, just real applicable tactical things that we talk about internally here at Thomas I Group. Once we've set those priorities, we want to take sort of the hierarchy and the names off the list and not look at an org structure, but really look at what are our most influential and important projects and who are our best people. And are they positioned so that those people who are our best can take the most important projects? Because our best people will deliver the most important results every single time. And so we talk a lot about putting our best people in the right seat to where we need something delivered, moved, changed, and giving them the authority and the autonomy and the pathway to success. You talked a little bit about when's the right time to bring on a manager, when's the next time to grow. For a small organization, you've really got to run that assessment. And for any doctors that are listening out there, like, burnout's real. And if you don't give your team the adequate resources that they need, you will just continue to experience a churn as unrealistic expectations drive people to look for a place where they can fit, where they can deliver results, where they can succeed, and where they can feel like they're successful.
Man, if I could, I would start clapping right now. I think people power and people energy and tapping into that's why I do HR. And I love that you talked a lot about that stuff. I was thinking about the books, Who Not How, John Gordon, Energy Bus, all these guys, Jim Collins, right? And, you're really trying to make sure you maximize the skills of the folks on the team. And those are things you got to be doing. And that's top 5% thinking mindset right there. When you look at a new manager in your business, let's say that there's someone out there that's decided, I'm going to do it. I'm going to hire a new manager. I've seen mistakes made on that decision. And I've seen good decisions made, and that can be critical. You hire the wrong supervisor, it's a compound effect. And you hire a good person, it's a positive compound effect. So what are some of your couple criteria that you look for when you're going to hire like a leader?
Man, I will be the first to raise my hand and say I've gotten that wrong. So let me just fall on that sword from the get-go. If my batting average were better than 500, I would probably be able to retire at this point. I think the real he talks about it in First 90 Days. Michael Watkins, who wrote that book. 30% of external hires into an organization succeed. There's a 70% organ rejection rate. And so we look at new leaders coming into the organization, and we actually talk about, what's the buy-in, what are the antibodies, what are the current they're going to be swimming against, what's the challenge that they're going to face when they come into the organization, how do we set them up to be successful, creating an assimilation plan, looking for ways that you can streamline, grease those skids, whatever the analogy you want to use is, but really thinking about your organization. You should be your organization's expert. What are going to be the circumstances that that person walks into, and how do you remove as many barriers as possible to set that person up for success? What is their 30, 60, 90-day plan? Do you build that for new leaders when they come in? I was sitting down with one of our managers at one of our locations yesterday, actually talking about her recruiting a supervisor, and she was asking me for like some frameworks, or she wasn't asking me for it. She was telling me like the 30, 60, 90-day plan is this. I got to find the person that can execute that. Because if they don't start creating buy-in and execution within that first 90 days, that organ is going to get rejected.
Yeah. And yeah, I've seen that happen. And it's a two-way street. The organization has to, and I think you were speaking to this, is the organization has to help make that the right fit. You do your best to pick the right person, and that could be internal or external. But you've got to do your work to make sure that you get that organ. You have a good, I don't know how you do organ transplantation, but there's some terminology around that. And you want to make sure that organ integrates correctly.
Yeah. And I think, if your organization doesn't have a recruiting framework, I would encourage you to go. There's a number of different resources out there. One of the ones that we recently started using at Thomas I Group that I'm really excited about is the WHO method. By Geoff Smart. So it's an interview selection and people management process that really focuses on, if your organization can spend more time up front hiring A players, you will spend less time downstream managing B and C players and dealing with the attrition that they create. Because every leader that comes into an organization, it's not just that role that's changing. Every role that person touches around the hierarchy of your organization changes as well. So their direct reports have a new manager with new expectations. That leader's team has a new person sitting at the table in that team. It's going to change the tone of that organization a little bit. You can have a strong culture in an organization, but when you add a new organ into a body, it changes how that body operates ever so slightly. And if it doesn't assimilate well, it's going to get rejected. And then above that, your board, yourself, if that person's reporting to you, whatever that looks like, everyone is impacted by that leader's change. And so if you, and Michael Watkins talks about this book as well, just the impact that leadership change has on an organization, or new leaders have on an organization, is a lot further reaching than you initially give it credit for. And so you need to be really thoughtful around, those expectations, those unspoken rules, the culture that you have, the landmines. He talks about it that everybody knows about, but if you're new to the organization, you don't know about, and they need somebody who's like their buddy to make sure they don't step on a landmine and get themselves hurt inside of your organization. It really is, doing it well it's hard work. And it really takes some dedicated, thoughtful effort.
Well, Ben, we've touched on a bunch of things here, and I could go in a million more directions, but I think we've touched on some awesome leadership stuff here, and so I think this is a great place to wrap up.
Sure.
How can people connect with you if they want to learn more from you or get to know you?
I would love to get connected on LinkedIn. If you're interested, reach out. I'm gonna give a shameless plug for ASOA. So if you really want to connect, I would love to buy you a cup of coffee at ASOA's annual meeting in Washington, D.C. and sit down and hear your story. If you're part of the ophthalmic community, that is the place that has helped me in my career in ophthalmology. And so I would say, if you're new to ophthalmology, new to healthcare, it's a great place. Even if you're outside of ophthalmology, it's a great place to learn about healthcare. It's very ophthalmology specific, but it's a great network of people that understand healthcare and are experts in operating their particular business. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Would love to connect and get to know anyone and everyone who's interested.
Awesome. Well, I highly recommend reaching out to Ben if you're in ophthalmology and getting to know him and tapping into that wisdom. And yes, get him that cup of coffee. He's one to find and to track down, and to take him to brunch and go for a jog and take him to a Georgia Bulldogs football game and do all that stuff.
Yeah, do all that stuff.
Well, with that, Ben, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so this has been another episode of Healthcare Leadership Live, sponsored by Seasoned Advice HR. And my goal is always to bring you insightful comments that can help you grow your career. And so if you're listening on the podcast, please follow. If you're listening on LinkedIn Live, please follow me here on LinkedIn, and I'll keep you posted on future shows. Thank you so much, Ben.
Hey, thank you so much. It's been great to be here.
Mm-hmm.